they can't save us. It's gone too far. And instead of fixing the problem, they just kept making the problem worse. I hope I'm wrong. We're going to go bankrupt. There'll probably be a new conference like the Louvre Accord or the Smithsonian Accord, and they're going to rewrite the rules of the game again. They're going to say, okay, the US dollar, you're toast. And IMF's going to jump in, China's going to jump in. But meanwhile, you and I, if you're holding dollars, you might be in serious, serious trouble. One of my tweets was New York City going broke. And the reason New York City is going broke is much of the property in New York City is commercial real estate. I own residential real estate, so we're doing pretty good. But on commercial real estate, with everybody zooming away and at home and all this, the question is, who's going to go back to work? Who wants to pay that high price for that commercial real estate? But worst of all, what value is commercial real estate, like an office building, if you don't have workers in it? All cities count on real estate taxes. So what you're going to see in the next few years is real estate taxes on your home. My apartments will go up. But when New York taxes those commercial high-rise buildings, more tenants will leave. So New York City is going broke. The beautiful city of Vancouver, Canada, is flat broke. It's just tragic what's happening because you have these incompetent city managers who are just like my poor dad, guys with college degrees, but no common sense. You know what I mean? All the cities now count on taxes, but if small businesses closing and big commercial real estate starts closing, our cities are going broke. You add to that pensions. Pensions, mark my words, I wrote my book called Who Stole My Pension? Pensions are going to be the biggest disaster hitting America and the world today. Because every day, 10,000 baby boomers in America retire. Across the world, there's 2 billion old guys like me who have no money. And who's going to bail them out? And no Republican or Democrat is going to say, we're not going to pay the old guys money. So that means the old guys, they're going to say, you got to bail us out. And so naturally, they're going to print more money and pay the old guys just so they get reelected. So it's real estate taxes, it's small businesses going broke, it's income taxes going down, and pensions going down. So the Fed has to print more money. So that's why I keep saying buy gold, silver, and Bitcoin, because gold is getting more scarce. So let me explain why gold. So my prediction is gold in 1 year should be $3,000. So that's about $1,000 more than it is today. So in a year, it should be up another 1,000. Some people say 2,500 is optimistic. But I'd rather have the price of gold going up than your money going down. So if you're saving money, I'll pray for you tonight, because your savings are actually real money. In other words, if you worked for it and you paid the taxes on that money you worked for, that's real legitimate money. Unfortunately, the Fed is printing trillions and they're going to pay you nothing for your savings. I mean, when I was a kid, I got 15% on my savings. Today, you get nothing. So the Fed is screwing you. That's the term. So I think gold at 3,000 in 2021, not outside the box. Silver, $40. And the reason I like silver is moving faster than gold today. And when I look at the price of gold, the high point was $1,900 approximately. I don't know what, a couple of years ago. But today it's $1,700. So gold is near its all-time high. Silver used to be about $49. And today I think it's 18. So it's about 70% below its all-time high. So silver is the best deal of all. And I think most of you can afford a $20 silver coin. If you can't, you have deep problems. The reason I like Bitcoin is because what I understand about Bitcoin is that it just had a halving. And a halving means they print less of it. At the same time, Bitcoin is printing less, the Fed is printing trillions. Now, you don't need a degree in rocket science to figure that one out. The Fed is making the US dollar or any currency, the yen, the euro, the peso, softer. Bitcoin is getting harder. Gold is getting harder. Silver is getting harder. I don't buy gold, silver, and Bitcoin to get rich. I just hate getting screwed by the Federal Reserve Bank and the Treasury. So if you want to keep saving money and putting it in the stock market, more power to you. But all that paper stuff is printed. And the CEOs of these stock market companies, they did a side deal with the Fed. So the Fed was loaning them billions of dollars for them to jack their stock price up. So the stock prices are at this artificial high, and all mom and pop are watching their 401ks or IRAs, and the stocks are this high. And the Fed keeps printing more money, keeps giving the CEOs indirectly, because they can't do it directly. They do it through what's called SRVs, special something vehicle. And they give the CEOs the money and they pop the stock market up. That's why we're in serious trouble. That's my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. But I would rather, at this time in world history, May 2020, I'd rather have gold, silver, and Bitcoin.
What is going on in the world right now has never happened in the history of the world. I mean, I knew our leaders were screwed up, but not this screwed up. The crash is bigger than I thought. So in March of 2020 was the biggest crash in world history of the stock market, but nobody knows anything about it because everybody's quarantined at home, thinking about coronavirus and social distancing and wearing face masks. People are missing out on one of the biggest catastrophic cash heists in the history of the world. They don't even know what's happening. Now, the good news is this is the best time if you're ready for it. I'm going to make a fortune. So I want you guys who are sitting at home, licking your wounds and wondering when you're going to go back to work and so you can get your lattes and cappuccinos and pizzas. Just know you might be missing one of the biggest opportunities in the history of the world because our governments have really screwed up. Something's fishy about this corona crisis. There's something very fit. Why did they have to shut down the whole damn world? And I think it's because they're covering up something very, very big. Now, if you're feeling bad, this is your program. If you're worried about what's going to happen to moi, our show today is the guy with the plan, the man with the plan, Brent Johnson. And I think he has the clearest vision of the future. So I want you to pay attention. I don't care where you live in the world, because I think Brent has as clear a vision of the future as possible. He's going to tell you what he sees coming so you can prepare for it. So if you can understand that, that's why this show is so important, because it's really about the future. It's very important. I want to hear what he has to say right now. Any comments, Kim?
No, I just want to hear what Brent has to say, because as we said, we're here about preparing, not predicting. Unfortunately, a lot of people have found out the hard way through shock that they were not prepared when the coronavirus hit, and who could have predicted that? But so now we have an opportunity to hear from an expert on what you see, Brent, coming down the pipe.
Essentially, what I think has happened over the last 10 years and what I think is going to happen over the next few years is that the world, after the financial crisis, the central banks just got together and just printed all this liquidity. The U.S. is going to be the primary recipient of sucking in all that milkshake, all that liquidity that the rest of the world is printing.
So the world's printing money, but that's going to flow to the U.S. is what you're saying.
Exactly. But my point is that whether you like it or not, the biggest demand for currency out there is the demand for the dollar. And despite the fact that they're printing a lot of it, the demand for it dwarfs the supply.
So your thing is the dollar's going to get stronger, is going to lift the U.S. economy and all our tangible assets here. But what is the demise? When's it break?
I think the monetary system is just not designed for the dollar to get stronger. And as it does so, it's going to just wreck the global economy. I mean, I think the rest of the world is going to just go through really, 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 difficult time. And ultimately, that's not good for the U.S. either. So as the dollar continues to get stronger, despite the Fed's efforts to, bring it lower, I think eventually the world will have to come together in another Bretton Woods type conference or another Plaza Accord type conference. And I think they'll have to either write debts down or introduce a new currency or reset the system in some form or another.
So with the coronavirus, because we don't know what is coming with that, how do you see in your world, what impact does that have in the future?
They're going to print all these dollars and all this currency. And so when the COVID does leave and money is start to flow again, now you've got a lot more money out there and now it's flowing. So that's a recipe for inflation. But first you get the deflation, you print all the money, and then when the money starts to move, you get high levels of inflation because there's so much liquidity now. So I think we have deflation, for the next year, 18 months, and then we have inflation after that as capital starts to circulate again. I think the euro is probably going to go away, or it's not going to continue to exist in its current form. I think on a price basis, it goes to at least 80. It's at 108 now, so it probably goes down 25 or 30% from here. I think the yen's going to go to at least 150. Maybe to 2. The dollar's going to go back to its all-time high, and I think the rest of the world's currencies, even the big ones, are going to get cut in half.
So if you're living in Japan, that means life will get more expensive.
Absolutely.
Same as euro.
Absolutely. Fiat currencies trade relative to each other. So even if you look at 10 fiat currencies and you realize they're all fiat, they're all horrible, one of them is going to outperform the other 9. And that's what I say with the dollar. Now, gold might outperform the dollar, but the dollar is going to outperform all the other 9. And you can make a lot of money playing the dollar versus all the other fiat. So if you don't want to put I understand owning gold. Everybody should own gold. But if you don't want to put 100% of your money in gold, then put whatever you don't have in gold into the dollar or dollar assets, because the dollar is going to just crush, I think, all the other fiat currencies.
We all know at this point 55 million Americans lost their jobs. Reports just came back yesterday that the U.S. GDP dropped 32.9%. Let me say this one more time. U.S. GDP in second quarter lost 32.9%. That's like a company's revenue dropping 33%, which is scary, but it's a country, which is even scarier.
If they don't bail this whole thing out, the trouble is, how big would that bailout have to be? How big would it have to be? There's a thing called CMBS, commercial mortgage-backed securities. They're like the loans on the office buildings and shopping centers and all that. They're broke. Can the Fed bail them out? Plus the pensions, plus mom and pop who lose their jobs. They could be 40, 50 years old, 3 kids, a mortgage. How big is this tsunami going to be?
We've seen the market come back quite a bit. It's really because the Fed's been printing monopoly money, and the stock market's just betting on the Fed to continue to do so. I see a train wreck coming at the end of this month when you have the $600 a week benefit ending, student debt relief ending, mortgage debt relief, and this crisis, which the media will not let go. I see a collision course headed in the market very soon. So this false sense that your 401k balance has increased, I would just be very prepared for what's about to happen. What you're aware of, you can control, but what you're not aware of will control you. And the more you're aware of what's going on in the economy, pension, and the stock market, the more you can prepare for plan B.
Let me give you an idea how long it takes to print $1 trillion. It takes less than a minute, 12 keystrokes. But if you were to spend $1 trillion at $1 a second, it would take him 34,000 years. And in the last few months, the pensions have gone short, just for the public guys, by $7 trillion. That's a lot of money to me. So that's why it's gold, silver, Bitcoin right now. But just as a pure hedge, a defense mechanism, I think you need plan Bs. How are you going to generate income? Really, it's time to be more creative and figure out how you can generate more.
If you were in a certain industry, you took a big hit, you're not to blame, because who the hell was under the impression we're going to be told kids cannot go to school and shut down industries? You and I didn't know that. We've never been through this before. This was the first time. But if it happens a second time around and you stay in an industry that took a massive hit, then it's your fault. First time around, not your fault. Second time around, it is your fault. The industry that took the biggest hit, okay, June over June last year, unemployment June of 2020, unemployment of June of 2019. Leisure and hospitality's unemployment rate is 29%, is the highest in any industry. Then it's mining, oil and gas extraction is 17.8%, transportation and utilities 12.9%. Then it's information 12%, wholesale, retail and trade 11.2%, construction 10.1%, manufacturing 9.1%, education and health services 8.6%, personal and business services 8.6%. Then it's self-employed, unincorporated and unpaid family workers 8.1%. Then government workers 7.3%. Then agriculture 5.4%. You know what the lowest one is? 5.1% financial activities, financial services. As a career, You have to figure out a way to position yourself where you're pandemic proof. By the way, I'm not telling you everybody's leaving that industry. I guarantee you most people don't like change. Most people like to stick to the same thing. Most people don't want to even see any kind of change, because as you get older, the hardest thing to do is change. You become this person that just kind of wants everything to be the same. You don't want that. But that's also a scary place to be. But if you look at these stats and you don't go study how they took big hits, why they took big hits, and how long it's going to take for them to recover, and you keep staying in that industry, and it happens to you again 5-10 years from now, you can't be upset at the government. You can't be upset at the economy. You can't be upset at a virus. The only person you can be upset about is your decision.